Hey everyone, my name is Matt. Welcome to my backyard and welcome back to my series on this homemade bandsaw mill. Pretty big bandsaw mill. In the last video we talked a little bit about the introductory stuff, what's going to happen with all the videos and what the overall plan is for the mill. If you missed that, there'll be a link in the description to a playlist that contains all the videos for this entire series so you can get to every single one of them really easily. So today I'm going to get started working on the track. And so far I just laid it out here just to get an idea of the scale of it in the space, just to get a kind of feel for how much space I'm going to need to work. And I'm glad I did this because I'm going to need a little bit more space to kind of move around, so I'll probably have to move some logs out of the way. But that's fine. So let's get into it. So here are the plans for the track. Here's the bill of materials and the actual cuts. Now I had the steel yard that I got all my steel from make all these cuts for me, so I don't have to cut any material. I can just start on the assembly. So a few things have to happen here first. As you can see, we're going to be drilling some holes here, actually a lot of holes, into the cross members, and those are going to get tapped so that when the stainless steel runners get attached, they can be bolted on. Now there's actually a couple of other holes that aren't on the plans yet. On the bottom side of the side supports here, there's going to be some holes drilled for some leveling feet. And I'm also going to drill a hole in the underside of the center rails here for a leveling foot as well. So that's going to be some pretty large holes. So I'm going to get started here by drilling the holes that are going to get tapped for the stainless steel runners. So to make sure that I have the hole spacing correct on all of these pieces so that the holes line up when we drill the holes into the stainless steel later, I had made this little jig here. Just has a few holes here. I did the first 3 holes drilled so that there's a spot for my center punch to go into. That way I can just punch each one of these things, flip this over, punch from the other end, and I'll have all 6 holes laid out consistently across all of the cross pieces. So the stainless steel runners are going to be bolted down to the cross members with these 3/8 by 16 socket cap head screws and a washer. So the tap for that size needs a 5/16 inch hole. So I've got a 5/16 inch drill bit in my drill press. I picked up a vise for the drill press table as well. I have a roller stand here. We're going to see how well this goes. Well, that little roller stand kind of failed me. But on the bright side, I found a pencil under my drill press. This is quite precarious. Woo! Okay, here's the new plan. I'm going to do it in the shop with the piece supported on my outfeed table and my table saw. All right. So now it's the next day. Last night I tapped the holes in these 3 beams over here, and now I'm going to get started on the rest of them. I'm doing this by hand with a hand tap. I know you could probably get away with using a drill, running it pretty slowly through here, but I really seem to be enjoying tapping holes for some reason. There's something I just enjoy about this, so I'm doing it by hand. And also, since it is only 1/4 inch steel, it's not really that hard to do it by hand either. Now, probably better to wait until after I paint this whole frame to tap these holes, but I figured it'd be a little bit easier just to get it out of the way now. And then after I paint it, I can just run the tap down through the hole to clean out any little bits of paint. I'm also coming back in with the screws that I'm going to be using, just running those through to just clean out the holes of any extra debris and to make sure that the tap actually worked. Now, since this is just a leveling foot, I don't need it to be perfectly centered side to side. I'm more concerned with it being centered in the center of the tube. So I'm just going to lay this out roughly with a punch, and then I'll mark the center line, which I have here. Look at that. Already set. Where's my line? There it is. So to drill the holes, I'm going to be using a 15/16 inch hole saw, and this is the same hole saw that I used to drill all the holes for the shackle mounts that I made earlier this year. So we're going to see how many more holes this thing can drill. All right, 1 hole. Next. So the plans originally called for 10 cross members, but to make more efficient use of the steel, I went with 9. To go to 10, it would mean I have to either buy a whole nother 24-foot piece of steel just for a 6-foot section or pay a cut fee. So I decided to just go to 9, which I think is still going to be fine. So that means that these can be laid out at 23 3/4 inches on center. So that gives me 21 3/4 inches between each member. So these rails are actually 16 foot 2 inches long, so I can have a 1 inch step back at each end. So the first member starts in at 1 inch, it's 2 inches wide, so that's the first one there. So the offset here is 2 inches, so I can go down to 25 3/4, and that'll be the center of the next one. So I'm just gonna keep working down the rails. I'm basically just laying this out like you would if you were framing a wall. So I'm just walking down this whole thing, and I'm adding the on-center spacing every single time to get to the next position. 73 1/4. So right now I'm at 73 1/4. I'll add another 23 3/4 of an inch. That takes me to 97 inches. 193, I've got an inch down here left. Perfect. So now I can go ahead and start drilling the holes for the mounting feet in these long rails. And since obviously I can't get these things onto a drill press, I'm going to use the hole saw in a cordless drill. Okay, cordless drill not working so well. I'm going to try this corded drill, but it's going to be hard to keep it at a slow speed. So we'll see how that goes. Alright, so my 15/16 inch hole saw has met its end, and it's not because it was dull, it was because I broke it. I was drilling this hole, the bit got all the way through this, it went down, grabbed, and I ended up twisting it over, which actually broke the bit itself. So this thing went through a lot of steel before I ended up breaking it instead of actually getting it dull. So luckily for me, I got a backup here. I have a drill bit that'll drill 15/16. I picked it up at like $20 something at the store. So we're gonna step through all the different sizes and get up to 15/16. So I don't know if this might actually take longer, but we'll see. All right, I'm gonna take a little break here. This drill is getting ridiculously hot. If I hold it, it's actually been burning my hand. So I'm gonna let that cool down for a little bit and then I'll keep going. I have a little over half of the 3/4 inch holes left, and then one step up to the 15/16, and then these holes will be done. So I'm just gonna lament a little bit while this drill cools yet again. What I should have done here is, as soon as I broke that hole saw, I should have gone out and bought a new one, because that way is so much faster than drilling a bunch of holes and enlarging them. Now, I've had a whole bunch of problems so far with these style bits, the S&D bits, and that in the hand drill they bounce around a lot, they catch. It's really kind of frightening a little bit. And I already chipped the 3/4 inch bit, and I got through 2 holes with the 15/16, and I chipped the corners on that one as well. So these are like $20 a piece, so those are garbage now. I was gonna go out and buy another set of these because I already have the holes there. I can't switch to using a hole saw now because the mandrel hole is too big. But I realized I have this, this step bit, which is still sharp up to 7/8. Beyond that, it's dull and I won't go any further. So I'm gonna have to go out and buy another one of these so I can finish up the holes, just to widen them up a little bit. But at least this will get me a lot closer. But I'm telling you, this is taking forever. Those holes were incredibly fast, like a couple minutes a piece. I'm at like over an hour already drilling these holes. This thing is whole. So I went to 3 different stores and no one had the other kind of drill bits. So I picked up another one of these step bits and I'll try this to drill the rest of the holes. I'll probably drill them all the way through so it'll actually be an inch. Or I can try and just drill it till 15/16 goes through and then see if the bolt will pass through the 7/8 hole. So let's see. Well, bits are already screwed up, so I can't drill all the way through with these now. So there is this little bit of lip here of material that I can't remove, but it seems to be okay. When I put the bolt in, it does engage the threads, but I can thread through just fine, and then I'll be able to weld the nut in place without an issue. So it should be fine like this. I just have maybe half the holes like that, and the rest of them have a full-size hole. So that's gonna do it for this one. All the holes are drilled in all of the frame pieces, so now they're ready to go together as the base for the track. That's what we'll do in the next one. We'll get in some actual welding and layout of all these pieces and get them all welded up into a frame that everything else can rest on. So thank you as always for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments about this adventure, please feel free to leave me a comment. As always, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And until next time, this is still woodworking because it's a means to that end, I guess. Happy woodworking.